All right, today we're going to crack open a really old idea, like 1,000 years old, and see what it has to say about, well, about everything, from Twitter arguments and drama at the office, all the way to the basic fabric of reality itself. Yep, we're diving into the physics of angels. And, believe it or not, how an entire civilization basically engineered its own survival, starting from the cosmos and ending with a simple, polite conversation. So let's just start with a really big question. When you think of an angel, what pops into your head? Probably something with wings and a harp, right? Okay, for the next few minutes, I want you to just set that image aside. Let's look at this whole idea through a totally different lens, like physics or even computer science. What if angels aren't beings at all? What if they're functions, like part of reality's operating system? Well, it turns out, in the Persian intellectual tradition, that's exactly what they are. An angel, or what they called a fereshte, isn't some creature floating on a cloud. It's a job. It's a function. You can almost think of it like a bit of code, like a subroutine or a daemon that's just constantly running in the background of the universe, making sure one specific process happens exactly the way it's supposed to. Okay, so a universe of functions. This idea immediately brings up a huge fundamental question, right? If you have one single perfect source of everything, what some philosophers beautifully called the light of lights, how on earth does it manage a universe that's so messy, so complex, and so full of different things? The answer the Persian thinkers came up with is just brilliant. It's all about delegation. See, the source doesn't micromanage the universe. That would be impossible. Instead, it sort of emanates. It sends out this cascade of pure intelligences, these functions we're talking about, and each one is responsible for structuring a whole layer of reality. They're basically the universe's cosmic management team. And we're not talking about some vague, mystical spirits here. No, they were incredibly specific about this. Take Gabriel, for instance. He isn't just a messenger, he is the very function of high coherence data transmission. He is revelation. Or Michael. He isn't some dude who helps with farming. He is the algorithm for resource management, for sustenance. And then there's Israel, who represents the function of entropy, that absolutely essential force that breaks down old systems so new ones can be born. It's a whole operating system. So this cascade of light, thinkers like Suhrawardi and Avicenna, these guys weren't just spitballing ideas. They actually mapped this whole thing out with incredible precision. For them, creation wasn't a one-and-done event. It was this continuous, beautiful flow, a cascade of light and intelligence, from total, pure unity all the way down to the complicated material world we live in. So how does this flow actually work? Well, first, you have the source itself, right? The light of lights, this single, unified point of all reality. From that source, you get the first wave, the angelic intellects. These are the big functions, the ones that build the very scaffolding of existence. And then you get another layer down, and this is where it gets really wild. You get what they called the lords of the species, a perfect, luminous template for literally every type of thing that exists. So what is a lord of the species? This is such a cool idea. It's basically the perfect, ideal version, the guardian angel, if you will, of an entire species. So somewhere out there, in what they called the imaginal world, there's a perfect rose, a perfect lion. And get this, it's not just a static blueprint. It's an active force. It's constantly pulling every single physical rose and every physical lion in our world toward that ideal, perfect form. And this is where it gets really mind-bending, because this ancient mystical idea has an almost perfect parallel in modern science. In complexity theory, they have this concept called an attractor basin. It's basically a stable pattern that a messy, chaotic system will naturally flow towards and organize itself around. It's the exact same idea, an ancient lord of the species and a modern attractor basin. That is just a stunning convergence of thinking, separated by 1,000 years. Okay, the engineer of coherence. So we've been up in the cosmic clouds for a bit. Now we're going to bring this all crashing down to Earth. We're going to see how this incredibly elegant cosmic theory got forged into a very real, very practical tool for human survival. We're going from the angels in the sky to the angels on the street. A comforting lie is better than a seditious truth. Whoa. Okay, that quote from the poet-philosopher Saadi of Shiraz, it sounds pretty bad, right? But hold on, this is our pivot point. We're moving from metaphysics to something he saw as just as real, social physics. And that quote isn't about telling lies, it's about a much bigger idea.
Sometimes you have to prioritize the stability of the entire social system over one disruptive fact.
You have to remember where Saadi was coming from. He lived through the Mongol invasions, one of the most destructive periods in all of human history. He saw entire cities just wiped off the map, societies completely erased. And he came to a really stark conclusion. When the world descends into total chaos, you can't just sit around and wait for cosmic angels or even kings to fix things. No, humans have to do it themselves. They have to engineer their own order, their own coherence. And that brings us to the physics of politeness. Saadi's solution, his big idea, was basically a kind of social technology. He came up with this whole set of protocols, this physics of politeness, all designed for one purpose: to minimize the destructive frictional energy that just naturally gets generated anytime people interact with each other.
See, Saadi literally looked at society like it was a thermodynamic system. To him, all the clashing egos, all the arguments, the insults, that wasn't just bad behavior. It was generating social heat. It was wasted energy that, if left unchecked, could destabilize and destroy the entire structure. So his solution? He designed a system of etiquette that would act like a social lubricant, something to cool the whole system down and keep it coherent.
In the core of this whole social technology is a concept called adab, which translates to something like refinement. But we're not just talking about which fork to use, you know? In Saadi's way of thinking, adab is a deliberate, conscious strategy. It's like putting thermodynamic insulation around society. It's a buffer zone of politeness, designed to stop the little sparks from individual egos from turning into a raging fire that burns everything down. Now, the most famous, most elaborate protocol for adab is a complex art form of etiquette called ta'aruf. And let's be honest, if you're not used to it, ta'aruf can seem really over the top, maybe even a little insincere. But if you look at its structure, what it's actually doing, it's a super high-fidelity protocol for managing social energy. It's designed to stop the system from blowing out. So how does it actually work? Well, you can think of it as an algorithm of humility. In any given interaction, especially one between people of different social status, the protocol is simple. You ritually lower yourself while at the same time you elevate the other person. It's brilliant, really. It works just like an electrical transformer, stepping down the super high voltage of a potentially tense situation so that the social circuit doesn't just overload and explode.
And just like that, we've basically come full circle, haven't we? We started way out there looking at the grand architecture of the entire universe with these cosmic angels maintaining order, and we've zoomed all the way in, down to the microarchitecture of a single conversation where a few polite words are doing the exact same job, just on a human scale. So this whole system, from the top down, from those cosmic functions pulling a species toward its ideal form, all the way down to a simple phrase designed to stop an argument before it starts, it was all designed to be a protective field. It's a heat shield, really, a heat shield built not out of metal, but out of logic and language, to protect the very fragile fabric of civilization from the constant, relentless pressure of social entropy. And that really leaves us with a big final question, doesn't it? If etiquette can be seen as this incredibly sophisticated technology, engineered to reduce social friction and preserve a society, well, it kind of forces you to look around and ask, what's our operating system running on? What are our protocols? What kind of social physics are governing our interactions today? And is that system designed to build coherence, or is it just generating more and more heat?